Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we are taking a look at a cool, unusual version of the Smith Wesson No.3 new model revolver. This is an Ottoman Turk version, or contract production gun, and what makes it unusual is the fact that it is a rimfire revolver. This is in fact chambered for 44 Henry Rimfire, and the Turks were purchasing these, the Ottomans I should say, were purchasing these as late as the 1880s. So there were 1873 Winchesters already around, but Ottoman Turkey had a whole bunch of 1866 rifles that they'd purchased. They were very happy with. You may recall there being some discussion of the Battle of Plevna, where it's interesting in that the true history of Plevna is that the Turkish rimfire or Turkish lever action rifles didn't actually play that substantial of a role in the victory, but a bunch of foreign military observers who were at the battle came away with the impression that they did, and that was enough to really spark a large interest in repeating rifle technology in Europe in the 1870s. But I digress slightly. So Turkey had still all of these 1866 lever actions that were chambered for 44 Henry, and they wanted some handguns that would use the same ammunition. So they appealed to Smith & Wesson to sell them No.3 revolvers in 44 rimfire. Now, Smith & Wesson, when they first introduced the No.3, actually used a rimfire cartridge for it. However, that only lasted a very short time, because as soon as they sent the guns to the US military for evaluation, the US military took a look and said, the gun looks great, your cartridge is obsolete crap, you should use a centerfire cartridge. This was a general by the name of Schofield, whose name ended up attached to the US military version of the Smith & Wesson No.3. At any rate, so Smith & Wesson moved to centerfire cartridges for virtually all of their sales of the No.3, except for Turkey, who came back and really wanted these things in rimfire. So let's take a little bit of a close look up inside it, and I'll show you what they changed to make it rimfire. Typically, new model No.3s will not have this extra spur on the trigger guard, but the Turks wanted it, and hey, if you're making it in a different cartridge anyway, not a big deal to add that for them. So the Turkish contract guns will have that little spur. If I cock the hammer, you will see that it is distinctively a rimfire hammer. For reference, that is what a centerfire hammer would look like on this pattern. And comparing that to a centerfire model, you can obviously see the difference. Note, of course, that the firing pin comes out in the middle of the recoil shield here, where on the rimfire gun, the firing pin comes out at the top, where it hits the rim of the cartridge. And for the sake of reference, here is a dud original 44 Henry cartridge, which will drop very nicely right into the cylinder. Overall length is just right. In fact, it's kind of funny that when these were originally offered to the Army in 44 Henry rimfire, when they converted the cartridge over to 44 Smith & Wesson American, they basically just turned this into a centerfire round, kept the same dimensions, same bullet weight, same ballistics. So converting these back to 44 Henry really wasn't that big of a deal. There are a couple other little things I can show you here. This is pretty worn, but you can still just barely see on the top of the grip here are the letters AFC, and that is because the inspector for these guns was A.F. Cameron, and when he was happy with them, he went ahead and stamped his initials on the grip of each one. That was specifically for the Turkish contract. We have a serial number on the butt of the gun here. This one is 3200 and change. The Turkish new model revolvers had their own independent serial number range, so they went from 1 up to 5461. However, not quite all of those went to Turkey. So the deal was, with the new model, Turkey first ordered 5,000 of them, and Smith & Wesson had a little bit of an overage, and they had 58 extras that they sold to a dealer who exported them down to Mexico. Turkey came back a couple years later in the summer of 1883 and ordered 281 more revolvers, which is kind of an odd number, but that's what they did. Smith & Wesson once again manufactured, in this case, a more substantial overage. They had 121 left that were again shipped to a dealer for commercial resale. So in total, the Ottomans ordered 5,281, and 5,461 were actually produced. The Ottoman Empire would spend almost 10 years, like 1874 until 1883, purchasing Smith & Wesson No.3 revolvers in .44 Henry Rimfire, and this would cover 3 different models of the gun. So of course we saw this one, the new model, but previous to this there were orders for 5 to 10,000. The references are vague and kind of contradictory, that included Russian second and Russian third model guns. So allegedly some of them actually with 44 Russian cylinders because they were ordered in a huge rush during the Russo-Turkish War. That ought not to have worked very well. They were converted to rimfire firing, but putting a 44 Henry into a 44 Russian chamber, one would expect to get a lot of badly split cases, and then no one seems to talk about that. So did it happen? Is it some sort of historical misunderstanding? I'm not sure. If I can find one of those revolvers, I would love to take a look at it and show it to you guys. But for the time being, what we have is one of the very distinctive and very rare Turkish contract Smith & Wesson No.3 new model revolvers in .44 Rimfire. Thanks for watching.